being a caregiver is what made me a professional stand-up comic.
Yeah.
Every time I get the opportunity, I have to say that it was the pain and the chaos and the calamity and the crisis of losing my father the way I did, and then my mom having such a depleted life so quickly. It's like becoming a caregiver allowed me to help my mom's life become elongated, but comedy allowed me to help my life become. And I will forever owe the institution and the art form of comedy for that. Parenting Up, Caregiving Adventures with comedian Jay Smiles is the intense journey of unexpectedly being fully responsible for my mama. For over a decade, I've been chipping away at the unknown, advocating for her, and pushing Alzheimer's awareness on anyone and anything with a heartbeat. Spoiler alert, I started comedy because this shit is so heavy, so be ready for the jokes. Caregiver newbies, OGs, and village members just willing to prop up a caregiver, you are in the right place.
Hi, this is Zeddy. I hope you enjoy my daughter's podcast. Is that okay?
Our Parenting Up community is growing so fast. I can't put out an episode as fast as we're growing. So text podcast to 404-737-1449 for updates, exclusives, and suggestions on topics. While you're at it, share an episode with a caregiver you love. Review on Apple Podcasts and follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Please, it really helps. This episode is sponsored by activism. This comes from our YouTube channel. That's right, y'all. You gotta lean into it. So, Queen Blackness 682. What up, yo?
Love that name.
100%. My grandmother died when she was around, no, let me get this right. My grandmother's mother died when she was around 3 years old. Her father gave her and her 4 sisters away at the graveyard to different families. Yikes. He didn't even allow them to come back home to mourn together. After my grandmother was grown and married with children, her father showed up on her doorstep one day, sick, and wanted her to care for him. She did it and took care of him until he died, and she buried him. He gave no explanation of where he'd been or why he left, etc., etc. IDK if I could have done what she did. IDK, I don't know. Now, that was a comment and a review on the particular episode where we talked about having to care for a parent that did not care. So thank you so much, Queen Blackness 682, for sharing something. I'm gonna tell you right now.
That's hard.
I don't think I would.
That's hard. That's
I
very
don't
tough.
know if I got that much love in me. I'm happy that's not my story. That I only have to figure that out.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, thank you. Make sure you comment, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, or shoot Jay Smiles a DM at Parenting Up, all right?
Please. Yes, and we're gonna have sizzles, gifts, all kind of stuff coming up as the season progresses.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mia Hall, and I am here with Jay Smiles, and we are on the Parenting Up podcast. Now, I know that this is not the usual way that you hear the Parenting Up podcast, but guess what? Today is going to be a little bit different. You know, we're always bringing you something brand new, and exclusive. And so that's what we're bringing you today. So I know that you might not have met me before. My name is Mia Hall, and I'm actually the producer of the Parenting Up podcast. And I am also the founder of Parables from the Projects Productions, where I co-host the Parables from the Projects podcast. So yes, so now we are talking about how did Parenting Up get started, right? And also, right before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to where we are. Right now, we are in a cool ice cream shop. I actually have some vegan ice cream right here. Cherry, I'll take a little sip. Oh,
It is good.
so good. So good. But yes, we're at Ice Creamoo. So we shout out to Jason for letting us film today's episode here. Parenting Up family, you already know this guest, but do you really know her? All right. So now we're going to get into it a little bit. So, let's just start from the beginning. Let's start, first of all, talking a little bit about Jay, right? Because how much do you really know about Jay and, her childhood and, things like that. So can you just tell us a little bit about, yourself, like, growing up as Janae before Jay Smiles?
Oof. A little bit about myself.
I know.
What's in this cup? It ain't enough in it. Was that Remy Martin 1738? No, I'm playing. I'm not, but I am. Yes, my legal name is Janae. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm an only child. My mom, Yvette, and my dad, Jock, very active in the community. Dad's a lawyer, mom's a CPA. My mom's parents, educators, very active in the civil rights movement, like Martin Luther King. They marched with him. They knew him. He slept at my grandparents' house. So everything in my whole world was about activism. If you see something wrong, you're supposed to say something. You're supposed to get involved. So I was a part of a really tight-knit village of mostly African Americans, but also Caucasians. We were Catholic in the Bible Belt. So everything about my life was usually a slice of, I was a minority in a larger something. So even when I was with Caucasians, I was with Roman Catholic Caucasians in a Bible Belt. So it wasn't even a lot of them, right? So that was kind of the life that I led and what I knew to be my own reality.
Yes. Okay. All right. So from Montgomery, Alabama, you actually went on to college.
Yes.
And you went on to school at Howard University. What made you choose
HU
to go to the other HU? I mean, Howard University.
That was so unnecessary, Leah. Anyway, but because my mother went to Hampton, I'm gonna let you get away with that. I went to Howard, honestly. My mom went to Hampton. You know that, like you did. I was looking at Hampton first, but Hampton didn't have my major.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU because I wanted to have that experience where I knew for a fact race was not playing a part into how I was treated by the administration. By teachers, by the bursar's office. Like my entire life in Montgomery, Alabama, race played a factor. It determined where we lived, where we ate, where we could sleep, which neighborhoods we didn't go in. That was real. Now they say, oh, you got to train the young Black boys. Listen, when I was growing up, all of us knew what streets not to go down after dark. It had nothing to do with what kind of music you were playing or how your car looked. You were white or you were Black. We didn't have Mexicans or any Asians. It was Montgomery, Alabama, baby. It was Black folks and white folks. That was it. And if you were Asian, then you were not white, you were Black too. That's how they were playing it back in the day. So I knew I wanted the chance to say, how is Jay being sized up? How is she being treated just for her? Can I please remove one element from the world? And that's what made me choose the HBCU. And then I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. Howard had a accredited mechanical engineering program. And I also knew that Tuskegee existed too, but that was way too close. My dad went to Tuskegee and he was practicing law in the city of Tuskegee. And I was like, that would be like going to the 13th grade. And I won't grow up. I needed to grow up.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So you matriculated at Howard, mechanical engineering degree. And then did you work before you went to the illustrious Stanford as well?
Yeah, I did. I did. I'll tell you something that is way exciting for me.
Okay.
Is that, or I'm proud of, I gotta say, is that Howard was a full academic scholarship. How do you pay for school if you don't have a job? Okay. When they explained to me about scholarships and test scores and grades and extracurricular activities, that's what made me go join drama club and debate club and French club. I was like, oh, if I get an A, I'll get in the honor society. And if I'm in every honor society on the freaking campus, that'll probably make me look better. Oh, okay. So half the stuff I was in there, it was really because I wanted to pick my own college without my parents getting in it. Because they told me real clearly around 9th or 10th grade, if we pay, then we say where you go. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I don't like that idea. So, but after Howard, I worked for Ford Motor Company. And they had me working out of Dearborn, which is, I think I say Dearborn, but Dearborn, Michigan, basically a bedroom community right outside of Detroit. And it was amazing. It was an amazing time to be in Detroit. That's when when the American automotive, we had the big three and they were running the world. This was when nobody cared about foreign automotive middle-sized cars. Yes, they had luxury vehicles, but Americans didn't really care about those then. And while I was there, that's when I got my real love for international travel, because Ford, within my first year of working for them, they gave me an international assignment to Spain, gave me a passport. I couldn't even speak Spanish. That's what I said. You know what? This thing called for America might not be so bad.
Yes.
I remember my grandfather died laughing. He said, I'm gonna never buy another phone in my life. I said, Granddaddy, why? He said, well, they must not have no damn sense. He said they gonna send you to Spain and you can't speak Spanish.
And he was like, no. He was like, I ain't buying from them. They don't got no sense.
No more cars.
He was like, cause they ain't got enough sense to send somebody that speaks Spanish to Spain.
I said, hey, easy player.
Like, we got a translator. I can learn.
And so I would just like to say to you and to everyone here, gracias para vivir en la casa.
Okay, yeah. So you had many experiences before you decided to go to Stanford.
Correct. So Stanford came, actually, I knew I wanted Stanford before I left Howard.
Okay.
But Stanford's graduate program required that you have real life experience first.
I love that.
I was mad at the time. I also love it too. When I was finishing Howard, I knew I wanted to design products and toys. What I found out in my last year at Howard was mechanical engineers usually design the machines that make the product.
Okay.
But product designers get to design the product. So I was like, hey, I want to design the cup. And they said, well, no, mechanical engineers design the machine that makes the cup. I was like, well, who gets to design the cup and decides who makes this cute little thing? All this little images. And they were like, yeah, no, that's for product design. I said, well, who gets to do that? They said, oh, you got to go to school for that. And most people did that as an undergraduate. Well, I wasn't about to go back and get another undergraduate degree. That sounds silly. So Stanford was the only school in the United States that would allow me to go into the graduate program for product design with an engineering undergraduate degree.
Okay.
They said, oh yeah, you can do it, but you got to go get real life experience first. They said, we don't care if you work or go feed koala bears, but you got to go find yourself and know something about the real world. And I get it. How can you design products for people
Right. If
you haven't been out buying products and using them?
Yeah.
And
Makes
so
sense.
I left Howard saying, okay, I got to work somewhere. And praise God, Ford hired me and I got a full graduate fellowship. So then I also went to Stanford free.
Nice.
Yes.
So student loans where? Okay.
Zero
She said
student loans. No student loans.
Zero.
They paid me to go to
Goals,
school.
right?
I had a stipend. Room and board too.
Yes, that's goals right there for
What?
all you up and coming college students, goals. All right. All right. Awesome. So yeah, so you had, everything going for you, you know, you planned it out.
Yep.
Very intentional
Very.
about it.
Yes.
Got your career. But not only did you pursue that, then you became a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell us about that too?
Yep.
And the planning, the intention of all of this.
Yep. So to back it up a bit, actually going to Howard, my plan from high school was to be a lawyer. All of the engineering and product design was a really roundabout way to civil rights activism. Before I finished 12th grade, I started 3 student protests. One of them got me invited to return to Catholic school. They said, you know what, troublemaker. You and John
Good
Lewis and your good trouble.
right.
You just take your good trouble behind right on to another school. Because my father was a lawyer, that's actually not the reason I wanted to be a lawyer. Now, him being a lawyer did expose me more to the profession. What got me excited about the law was what I knew about the civil rights movement and the fact that for the whole 19th century, everybody that was a part of making change seemed to be a lawyer. There was always a lawyer in the mix, I should say. There was a lawyer in the mix that was designing the strategy around how are we going to break this rule, break these ugly rules for women, for men, for kids, for foreigners coming into America. And I was like, I want to do that because I want to help. When I was preparing to go to Howard, my dad said, baby, don't major in pre-law. That is the dumbest program ever. He said, because if for any reason you don't choose law school, you're stuck with a degree that is absolutely useless. And spoiler alert, I hate reading and writing. I hate it. I can do it. I just don't like it. And my father knew that I loved math and science. Like I would do a math problem like other people will play jacks or hopscotch or jump rope when I was a kid.
Okay, so that's where the interest came in. Okay.
And so my dad said, you know what, baby, what you need to do when you go to Howard is you need to major in something where you will take your butt to class. The most important thing for law school is to actually graduate from undergraduate school.
Okay.
With the best GPA you can. They don't care if you graduate in basket weaving. Graduate with the highest GPA. So what will make you go to class?
Right.
And I said, math and science. He said, well, go major in that. My mama was mad as hell. She said, don't let her major in something that's not law, because then she's going to get distracted and get over here and da. And he said, I don't care. What I don't want her to do is not graduate.
Right.
Or graduate with grades so poor that it's hard to get in law school. So I'm at Howard. My father ended up being so right. I'm at Howard. I'm finishing my junior studies. I fall so in love with engineering that I want to go design stuff. And I kind of tested by my mama one Thanksgiving, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're going to law school. You've been talking about law school since you were in the 8th grade. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I just want to go do this and then see. And then she kind of walked out the room on me. So when my parents sent me the money to go for the law school Kaplan classes and everything to take the LSAT, I didn't sign up for the classes. I just didn't take the courses. So when they called me to ask me about, did I prepare for law school? Did I sign up? Did I send any applications? I said, nope. Now I did spend the money, but I never applied.
Okay.
And it was the only time in my life when my mama stopped talking to me. She just handed my phone to my daddy, and she said, Jock Smith. And she said some curse words that people wouldn't expect her to say. Jock Smith, you get on this phone with this child. I told you not to let her major in something other than pre-law. And that was the start of me figuring my way to get to Stanford and all the things. So I always wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So I just kind of took another route around it. And I'm a bit of a purist, Mia, meaning if I want to design products or if I want to be an engineer, then I want to go be that. I don't want to be an engineering product design lawyer all on one project, right? Like I don't buy 2-in-1 conditioner shampoo. I want the shampoo, then I want the conditioner, and then I want at the end I want the whole thing. You know what I mean? Then I want the edge control. Don't give me one. I'm like, nah. I want to get the whole thing. I want the appetizer, then the salad, then the entree, then the dessert. Don't give me a smoothie that's supposed to give me all the nutrients. You know what I mean? So there were certain degrees or certain academic opportunities that tried, like patent law, where people would say, oh, you could go do both. No, you can't do both.
No, you don't want to do both. You're a purist.
Right, I'm a purist. And you don't really do both. As a patent attorney, you're just looking over engineering papers, but you don't get to do any engineering. You don't design anything. You don't have anything to do with how that product works. You're just making sure that somebody doesn't get sued. You have nothing to do with how the damn thing works. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So basically law was the very first thing I was supposed to do.
Okay.
So I ended up going full circle.
Okay.
My father met Johnny Cochran when Johnny Cochran was on his first book tour. This was after the OJ trial, his Journey to Justice book tour. They became very, very fast friends. So while I was at Stanford, they started the National Cochran Firm.
Okay.
And so when I went to Gillette to design toothbrushes, they started teasing me about having this corporate job, like, you know, working for the man and being, you know, behind bars. Because I got this 9 to 5 and I'm wearing a lab coat. But I'm the only Black woman in this Global Advanced Research and Design Center for a Fortune 500 company. I'm expecting them to be proud, and they're clowning me. They're like calling me from private planes, saying, "Are you through? Are you through playing?
They was waiting for you. They was waiting for
Are
you.
you through playing with the little Lego sets and your Bunsen burners?" That wasn't right.
Black people, why we like that? We like that.
Right. We out here making real money and real change. Call us back when you want to help. I was like, that's not right. You know, Johnny definitely had children, but none of them were ever interested in the law.
Okay.
And so my father and Johnny, who I affectionately called Uncle Johnny, were always saying, you know, whenever you're ready, you always said you wanted to be a lawyer. So what you doing? And there was a point, I never thought corporate America was going to be the end for me. So there was a point when it was just time. Various things were happening. So it was just time for me to go ahead and go to law school. And so I did. Each step, it had always been a part of my plan. And at each moment, it was time to go to that next thing. So I went to law school, and it was a huge plan for what we were going to do next, the Johnny and Janae show. And but unfortunately, Uncle Johnny passed of brain cancer during my first year of law school.
Wow. Man. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that changed some things there. Okay. So that's what happened to your first year of law school. But so then what happened after that as far as, where did your career go?
Okay. So for a few years, my dad and I were scratching our heads and our bellies, really wounded and hurt. My father was devastated when Uncle Johnny passed. He was a big brother and a mentor. And then my dad was also determined to keep the firm together.
Okay.
Because the Carkin firm was the first national franchise-based plaintiff's law firm in the country, period. And my dad, when Uncle Johnny passed, my dad felt personally responsible for keeping it together. So it was my father, Johnny Cochran, and then two Caucasian men. So it was a great mix initially. So when Mr. Cochran passed, it was my father left. My dad became the president. So my dad felt he was then the only remaining African American partner, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna put Johnny's legacy and all the Black community on my back, and I'm about to fly around to every office. And I saw what it was taken out of him. It was oh God, it was awful. It was awful. Trying to keep the firm together killed my daddy. To me,
Yeah.
I think it killed him. I think the stress of it killed him. A lot of the infighting, because naturally everyone's jockeying for power. Because if Johnny Carpenter's dead, then like now who's going to get, regionally, everybody is trying to get a little more power, trying to, I mean, it's to be expected.
Yeah.
But it's hard to watch when it's your father that is the one who's getting the chunks bitten out of his side or out of his legs. So basically, I joined the Cochran firm, and I was assisting my dad in high-profile cases. I worked on stuff with him for Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King's, Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King's family, their estates, Rosa Parks' estate, Floyd Mayweather, cases like that.
Yeah.
As well as other plaintiffs' liability cases. And then we were working through that, as well as my father was a major sports fanatic. And he was a avid sports collector since the 1980s. And what we decided, probably about 3 or 4 years after Johnny passed, and I was talking with him, we were actually having lemon drop martinis. That was the only kind of put hair on your chest drink he would drink, but he would do that with me when we were having like a daddy-daughter moments. He would sit at the bar and drink that with me. And he said, well, baby, what do we want to do now?
Okay.
Like, the Johnny Janae thing is not going to really do what we're going to do. And so my idea was to take his collection, which was the largest sports memorabilia collection of anybody in the world. My dad had, with the help and blessing of my mom, amassed this huge collection of Game One sports memorabilia over like a 30 or 40 year period. And, everybody from Babe Ruth to Michael Jordan to Jesse Owens to Jackie Robinson to Jack Johnson, black, white, everybody, tennis, baseball, football, basketball, hockey,
Everybody.
NASCAR, whatever you can think of.
Yeah.
If it's North American, even Pele, I have 2 Pele jerseys. And so I said, well, you know what, Dad? There's a whole lot of daughter, daddy, legal teams, but nobody else has our collection. So let's get that shit out. Let's do something with it. So that became our big push.
Okay.
And about 5 years after I got out of law school, 4 or 5 years after I got out of law school, we were pushing to have a major showing of that in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So we were pushing to open a museum slash experience, like 3D virtual experience that, you buy a ticket, you come through, so you feel like, oh, am I outside? Am I can I pitch a fastball as fast as a Major League Baseball player? We even had a NASCAR pitch, like a pit crew, so you could test yourself to see, can I change a tire as fast as they can in the pit crew? So we were making like a whole sports experience spot.
Okay.
That was the goal. And then we were going to tour it all around.
Right.
So your dad died. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to.
Maybe it's me. You should probably be on this interview. I don't want you to die.
No, it's not you. It's not you. It's life. It's life. But yeah, I mean, it just, you had, I mean, not only, I mean, I know, you had the sports, collection that you were going to do in Vegas, but, you also, still were doing product design and, internationally, I remember that you were speaking about, working with people on the continent of Africa,
Yes.
right? With young girls.
Yes.
And you were in the middle of that when your father passed as well. Like, can you just talk about because I know you lived a very intentional life. It sounds like you were doing a lot of things, you had it going on, just like out here, you had a very specific plan. And then, when your father died, not only did he die, and then that's when, your mom's health started to decline. So can you just talk about what you were doing before your father passed, and then, what happened when your father passed?
Yeah. I was doing that stuff that people would say, nuh-uh. Like right now, if it was on social media, it would sound like, no, you don't. No, you can't. I wouldn't believe it now, looking back on it. Like, who was that?
Right.
And how do you get to do that?
Yeah.
Because I'm not famous. You know what I mean? I'm not now. I wasn't then. Not a billionaire. I'm not a part of the royal family. Daddy was not Barack Obama. So, like, how did you get to do that and experience those things? Now, I'm not gonna lie, you gotta sprinkle in a little bit of, it was some favor, some good luck. And then also I didn't like to settle for stuff I didn't want to do. I was like, well, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. When I was sharing earlier, I was like, okay, no, I want to be a product designer. Oh, if Stanford is the only place that's going to let me do it and they're going to make me work first, well, then I'm going to just wait and go work first. All of my friends, including my mama, were mad as hell at me. They said, why don't you just go get your graduate work at some other engineering school? Go to MIT, go to Georgia Tech. What are you talking about? And I was like, no, they don't have a program I want. So I just waited. I don't have no problem waiting on what I want.
Right.
Okay. So what I was doing before that was when I finished law school, there were 2 things happening simultaneously. I was convincing my dad,
Okay.
first of all, that we should even let our Hope Diamond type collection see the light of day.
Okay.
Because up to that point, you had to know me, my mama, or my daddy to see or touch any of the pieces. There was no way for you to see anything else. Everything else was under lock and key in a vault that, we'd have to kill you to tell you where it was. But because of my travel and living in Europe and living in Africa and traveling around, and I saw what historical pieces meant to human beings, not just reading about it, but when you can touch it and say, oh yeah, that came from some pharaoh's tomb somewhere in Egypt, or that's the Sistine Chapel. And when you read about it and then you see it, it changes everything. Yeah. And you see little kids and old men walking out of buildings crying, and you overhear them talk about, well, when I get home, I'm gonna do this. And that emboldened me to go and talk to my family and say, listen, we can't keep Jesse Owens' track shoes from the 1936 Olympics where he got 4 gold medals in front of Hitler in the family vault no more. They're the only pair that exist in the world. We got to show them. Yeah. We got to share them. And they was like, ah. My mom was like, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'm going to court. My dad was like, well, if you can convince me. So I was doing that to get Vegas set up. And then as a lawyer, I was a part of a team that represented the United States on behalf of the State Department, and we would go to select countries in Africa and do, the best way to put it is like to say legal goodwill missions. Say, hey, we have our tried and true legal practices, all right? Whatever African nation, Kenya. I personally went to Kenya, Ghana, Liberia, and Namibia. Yeah. Okay. For this particular work, to say, hey, you all have your legal methods. Okay. And the difference in Africa is there's statutory laws, like what we write. There are written laws and then there are tribal or customary laws that are not written, that depending on what tribe you go to, it's a whole different law. And they mix the two. Now, here's the issue. Since the continent of Africa and most of its nations are trying really hard to join the global international economic table, they're going to have laws that everybody else can understand. Right. Well, how you do that? Without disrespecting the tribal customs. Okay, all right. So there were a group of Black lawyers who said, hey, let's go over there and be like, hey, listen, ain't nobody trying to say that what y'all did is wrong, but let's just try to make it make sense. Because the goal is to get everybody to the table to have a big piece of this pie. We went over having those kind of conversations. So here I am meeting with their versions of like the Supreme Court. And I'm like in my early 30s. And I'm like, is this real? Is this real? I'm a part of like their version of the CIA, you know what I mean? They picking me up from the airport and I'm like, what? Are you really serious right now? And basically legal goodwill missions. And it was then that I was able to let them know that, hey, I'm also an engineer and a product designer, and I have this affinity for young girls of color, math and science, and helping them stay in school. And they were like, hey, I can tell you who you can meet. And during my breaks, other people were going on tours. I would go to the slums. I didn't want to go to the tour where the tourists go. Change all my clothes, put on something with no brand, right? Like not even Levi's. To, Americans, we were like, oh, it's Levi's. Like, no, Levi's are worth $1,000 in some of these places. Like nothing. Right. With no label on it. Go to the slums, and I'm calling it slums because they call it slums. I'm not attaching that label. I met young girls and their headmasters who told me they only dropped out of school because of their menstrual cycles.
Right.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But between 12 and 15 years old, because of a natural monthly occurrence, they could not stay in school because it was too dangerous to walk from where they lived to the school. Because of their pheromones, there was worry that that young lady may be accosted because she's now ready to conceive or to be received by some man, and or she doesn't have the proper equipment or products to take care of her menstrual cycle. So she needs to just stay at home with her mom and her grandmama in the hut because they don't have sanitary napkins, and you can't use tampons because that's against customary rules. You can't put anything up in that up in there because you're still a virgin. I was like, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I absolutely used a tampon before I had sex. Never thought about the fact that maybe I wasn't a virgin when I thought I was a virgin. You know what I mean? Like spiritually. I was like, what in the whole hell?
Right.
So those kind of things got me on a boom. So my plan was I'm about to fix it.
We're about to fix
What?
that whole
360.
thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna use my connections in Italy to design the answer for these young sisters. We're gonna design a product that's gonna take care of this menstrual cycle shit. So they're gonna be able to go to school
Yeah.
and take care of their families. And I'm gonna get all the people I know in America to pay for it. And I'm gonna live between Africa, Italy, and the United States. And life is about to be good. And I'm gonna start that in my mid-30s. And Holly, if you hear me, hide your husband, hide your sons, but hide these streets.
Outside been open, baby.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was like, listen, I'm gonna see y'all around Thanksgiving. Other than that, you better come see me. I got a plan. Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay.
It's coming together too.
It was coming together. And
Then my mom and dad were watching a football game in January on the couch in Montgomery, Alabama. It was cold.
what year was this?
2012.
So,
January 8th, 2012. The New York Giants were playing the Atlanta Falcons. Eli Manning. It was his second and what would end up being his second and final. Never mind. I'm a play this one. So they went to it was cold. They were watching the game. My dad is so New York. He had every version of DirecTV and satellite, whatever, so he could get all the New York pre-games.
okay.
So even though the game might not come on until 1 o'clock, they got up at like 9 in the morning to see all the Madison Square Garden Network, New York, all the, it was ridiculous.
Everybody.
Everything. So he's getting the radio stuff, but they play it on the TV. It's stupid, right? So he's like, he knows what they wearing a new color shoelace. He was on the spectrum for New York.
Okay.
Right. If there's New Yorktism, like they got autism, and New Yorktism.
She ain't talking about the cable network. She's talking about, I can't.
I'm trying to tell you, my daddy had it. He was on it. Your dude had it.
Listen,
He had
being
it
a
for
New Yorker, there's nothing wrong with that, all right? See? There's nothing wrong with New Yorkism.
I tell you what, there's definitely not a pill for it. They don't.
Feel for that.
No, they don't have no, what is it, stem cell? Ain't no stem cell transplant for that either. So it was still cold. Mom went to their bedroom to get a blanket. She came back. My dad wasn't talking, wasn't breathing. She couldn't get him to move. She called 911. She told him He's non-responsive and unconscious. And the paramedics came. And that's the last time my mom sounded like herself. I wasn't in Alabama. She called me to say, Jay, don't worry. Or what did I do? Worry. It was worried everywhere. It wasn't nothing but worry. I immediately started crying. I jumped out of bed. I remember standing up against the wall in the room and like immediately sliding down the wall and like crashing to the floor, sobbing, crying. And she was like, no, hold it together, hold it together. We're going to pray. It's going to be okay. Your father's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. The paramedics are here. They're working on him. I'm going to go to the hospital. You pull it together. I want you to get home as soon as you can, but don't do anything that'll be safe. Okay? Mama loves you. That woman and that voice, that's my mama. That was my mama that was talking. I was here in Atlanta at the time. By the time I got to Montgomery, the person that was standing there, that wasn't my mom anymore. What's up, y'all? This is Jay Smiles. Please join our Patreon community. You're about to have access to exclusives, behind-the-scenes footage, gifts, giveaways, and so much more. You don't want to miss none of it. I mean, not none of it. Not none of it. Why are you still here? Go join. Why are you still here? Go click. Buy. Go click. Fast. Now. For real. Hey, you're still here. Thank you for joining me. Patreon members, you get to view the entire origin episode on patreon.com/JSmileStudios.